Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship Psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD Trauma Transformational Tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about what to do when your PMDD partner is not doing the work and you are. This is basically when you are trying to make your PMDD relationship better and your partner is not on that journey with you. So with a lot of my private clients, we've come into this situation where they're doing the work, they're using the tools, but their PMDD partner is not on board with making their relationship better, with using the tools, with coming to the sessions, with doing all the things. And a lot of times that's because they are frustrated. They are frustrated because they've gone months and months and months of damage to their PMDD relationship. And so they're really starting to think, what's the point of trying something new? And that's really what a lot of my PMDD partner private clients are having to deal with, is that they've gone so long with not doing anything about the damage that's being done to their PMDD relationship that by the time they start doing the work, their partner is like, I don't really want to get into this because it's just going to be the same thing every single month. And there's this feeling of hopelessness. And the hopelessness comes from every single month they're thinking things are going to be different and then they're not. But I want to let you know, even when you're not doing the work, or even when they are not doing the work and you are, there are tools that you can implement for the both of you. And one of the biggest tools I had to use myself today. I am on vacation. I'm here in Vegas. It is Thanksgiving Day. And my partner triggered me last night. He came into town last night. And I had, if you follow me on Instagram at In Love with PMDD, I was preparing myself for his arrival, thinking it's going to be this great visit. I made sure I did my morning routine. I did all the things. And when I ended up seeing him last night, I noticed even through text conversation, he was a little bit on edge. So he decided to drive because there's so many flight delays that are going on and he has a really important mission to do with work. So he's like, I'm just going to drive the 4 hours here to Vegas. And we flew. So it only took us an hour. We had a great flight. Me, my daughter, my dog, it was no big deal. But he decided he wanted to drive so that if he had to drive back to work, he wouldn't have to get stuck on a flight. And I advised him, I said, hey, maybe you should think about not driving because you don't like to drive. So this is about knowing your partner. When you know that there's certain circumstances that don't benefit them, like if they don't like to drive, if they're not good when they're really, really tired, if they need to be, fed at a certain time, like you try to advise them, but sometimes they want to do things their own way. And I let him. So I said, okay, you're deciding you want to drive. I don't think it's a good idea, but that's what you want to do. And I was basically right because there's a couple of things that happen when my PMDD partner drives. Number one, he has back issues. So his back is really, really uncomfortable and he doesn't like to eat while he's driving. So then he gets really, really hungry. And then he had went and worked a half a day and then came and drove. So he was already cranky. So that's what was going on with him. On my side, I had woke up, I flew in the night before. Took like a red eye. So me, my daughter, and my dog, we got here late at night. I slept in, I got up, did my morning routine, and he wasn't going to get here till about 6:30. I had 2 client calls. I did those. They were amazing. And I got an email from my professor saying I needed to have a certain part of my dissertation done, literally done, by today or yesterday. So I knew I was going to have a late night, but I was still, pretty optimistic about it. I'm like, I'm a night owl. I'll get it done. All because I had intentionally done my morning routine. I took the time for myself. I made sure I had enough sleep. I wasn't in PMDD. Like, all of the stars were aligned for us to have a great interaction. And when he told me that he was here, the first thing that happened, so you have to know your partner. I knew my partner was on edge because we're in a hotel where they have different towers. There's a resort tower and there's a royal tower. And so we're in the resort tower. He has a separate room because he was coming in at a different time. And then also my room here, I have my daughter, my dog. It's like chaos. So it's kind of like us having our little mini vacation where we're in the same hotel, but we're in different rooms so that my daughter and my dog and all the things can spread out. And then I can just spend time with my partner. And then he's leaving earlier. So that's another thing too. But I went down to meet him, and I had went and got his favorite drinks, his favorite snacks, and to give to him. And so he had got me a case of water. Like, I was such on a high. And I don't know if you've ever been like this, where you're so optimistic about how your interaction with your partner is going to be, that when it's not that way, it kind of catches you off guard. You're kind of like, whoa. And that's how I was. So I went to see him, and he was like, I was like, oh, you're in the Royal Tower. He's like, no, I'm in the Resort Tower. And I was like, oh, I'm by the sign. And I was like a little bit above the sign because I thought I was walking towards the Royal Tower. And he's like, no, I'm right here in front of the sign. You're standing in the wrong place. Like, he started freaking out. And I was like, what? He's like, you're standing in the wrong place. I bet you're in the wrong place, blah, blah, blah. And then we like walked towards each other, and he was like, oh, I see you. You ever like call somebody on the phone and then you're like walking towards them and then you see them and you hang up? That's what happened. So I went and I gave him a kiss and a hug, and I could tell he was still on edge. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, when you're in your good days and you're like, that's okay if my partner's in a bad mood, like, I'm fine. So we went to his room, and I let him just vent about everything that was going on. He was like, the drive sucks. He was in traffic because it's holiday traffic. It's the day before Thanksgiving here in the US. Like, it's crazy. It's all the things that I was trying to have him avoid, but I wasn't in a place of, PMDD where I was going to be evil and be like, I told you so. So I was kind of just listening to him vent and go on and on and on. And I said, that's okay, babe, all these things. And so we kept talking, and he started like accusing me of things. He was like, you could be more affectionate to me, or you could do that. Like, he was like, I was already being affectionate. It's like he was picking at me. And I don't know if you've ever felt like that, where your partner is on edge and they're just picking at every little thing that you do. And I was kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, I think there was a switch where I left from that place of being really optimistic, like everything's going to be great. And I went into that place of, who the heck do you think you're talking to? Because I had reached my elastic limit. Like, I feel like we all have that. We have a limit of like what we can endure with our partners when we're trying to be understanding and all the things. But I literally wasn't doing anything wrong. And it seemed like he was picking at every little thing that I did. And so, being that I was what we were planning on doing was spending some time in the room, just talking and catching up. Then we were going to go downstairs to one of the restaurants in the resort and have dinner. I had already eaten earlier, but I didn't want him to have to eat by himself. So we said we're going to go downstairs. So when he started picking at me, I mean, literally, he was like, this is what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was getting really abrasive, and I wasn't in PMDD, thank goodness, because that would have triggered me, and I probably would have potentially like felt the urge to go off. Instead, I removed myself from the situation. I was just like, you know what? I literally have to write because I knew I had to write my paper. I was going to be up for like 4 or 5 hours writing part of my dissertation because, I'm getting my doctorate in PMDD studies, and I'm getting towards the end of it. And so I can't I have to be on point. So I literally was like, you know what? I'm going to let you, enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm pretty much going to like go back to the room. And he was like, so he was combative and blaming me for everything, being really defensive for little things. It was like literally little things. And so I noticed he was on edge, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit at dinner for you to just pick at me and tell me all the other things that you think that I'm doing wrong. Like that's just going to cause more damage. That's what I was thinking in my mind. So I said, you know what? I'm going to let you like go eat and rest and, whatever. And I'm going to go back to the room. And then he was kind of like, oh, you're really going to leave? Like, really, you're really going to leave? And I was like, yeah. So that it's called the PMDD pivot. And it's what I use with my private clients. If you find that your partner is being triggered by things that you're not necessarily doing, kind of like picking a fight because they're already dysregulated, like something's going on with them, don't stay in that situation because it's genuinely just going to get worse. And I could foresee that because in the past, that's what had happened. I was like, force myself to go to dinner or force myself to stay in that situation. And then more things were said that weren't supposed to be said. You have to be able to recognize when your partner is not in a good state, when they're full of anxiety, when they're full of anger, when they're full of all of these things, then they're probably just going to take it out on you. Even if you have nothing to do with it, you're the only person that's there. That's why it's called an intimate relationship. So they're probably just going to take it out on you. So as a way to avoid, and then you're going to get triggered and take something out on them. So as a way to avoid that, just remove yourself from the situation. And that's what I did. I put my phone on do not disturb because that's what I always do when I do my homework. And I went and I came, back to the room and I made sure that I took a long walk, not a long walk. It was like 5 minutes so that I wouldn't come back in the room with my daughter and be all like pissed off and stuff. So I was fine, but I found that I didn't fully get upset and triggered because I removed myself from the situation. It's kind of like that meter at the carnival where you hit it and then the ball goes all the way up and it decides whether you're going to be super triggered. So I wasn't super triggered. So I came back. I did my homework. I stayed up late. I got it done. I went to bed at like 2:00 in the morning, turned it in. I was super proud of myself. I was able to be focused. And, he had sent me a message, was like, oh, like right after I came back up to the room, he was like, oh, I got at the table, like come downstairs. And I knew that if I was to come downstairs when I saw that message, that it would turn into a toxic situation. So I didn't do that. So he eventually went to sleep. And then what happened was I woke up with anger, with rage. I was like pissed off about what happened. I had like a delayed reaction. And I think it's because when you pivot yourself out of a situation and you put your focus on something else, you're deciding not to focus on that thing. So I had to focus on my homework, and that took my focus off of, his interaction with me. But I woke up feeling all of this bitterness, this resentment, this anger. Like, I can't believe he treated me like that. Like, I was super loving to him. I brought him drinks and food, and he was like super evil to me. And so we switched because now he was in a good mood. And he was like, good morning, baby. Like, we're going to have a great day. Like all of the things that I wanted from him the night before. And I said, are we going to address what happened last night? Or are we just going to pretend like nothing happened? And he was like, yeah, I was, frustrated and triggered from the long drive. My back was hurting. Plus I was hungry. I was cranky. He was like, but that's just making excuses. I was wrong. So he was trying to apologize, and he was in a place like, let's just move on. And I do not recover like that. Like for me, interacting with the individual once I've been triggered and I'm angry, like that's not going to help me. I need to regulate myself on my nervous system on my own. So he's like, okay, let's go to the gym together. Like he's trying to have a whole day like I was trying to have the night before. And so this is what I'm telling you. Sometimes you and your partner can kind of like miss the mark, whether you're in PMDD or not. It could be like you're like, oh, I'm going to have a really good time. Like you're out of PMDD and you're like, yay, let's spend time together. And they're feeling all of the effects of all the things that you've said and done when you're in PMDD. And so they're kind of like, nah, I'm good. Like they're looking at you with the side eye and you're like, no, but I feel good. And so that's literally how he was acting. He was acting like how I would when I came out of PMDD, like, hey, I love you. Like, let's have a great day. And I was in that mode where I was like, I was in PMDD. I was like, no, we're not going to have a good day. We're going to have anything but a good day. Like, because I'm freaking pissed. And so I could feel the anger and the rage. And I was like, kind of like amused at the fact that I was able to delay it because I didn't know that that was something that was like a thing. I've noticed I've done it before, but what I want to let you know is you have the ability to delay your PMDD rage by pivoting and doing another activity that really takes your focus. And I know I've done it before where I've had to do stuff with my daughter and I knew I wasn't going to take it out on her. So I've kind of like delayed my reaction, but it's like this time was very intentional. So I was like, okay, cool. And so, he went and got a workout in. He was like, let's meet at the gym. And then I was just kind of like, no, like I have to walk my dog. I have to do it. Like I had all these things because I just wasn't ready to see him. And I want to let you know that's okay. If you're angry and you're not ready to see your partner, I don't want you to feel guilty about that. And I tell this to my private clients all the time. Take all the time and space that you need, because if you don't, when you do interact with them, you're going to do so much more damage. So right now, we're about to go to dinner, but I'm going to tell you how I shifted out of going off on him in like rage. And that was, I went and did my morning routine. I allowed myself to acknowledge that I was triggered. I didn't try to ignore it. I didn't try to not be triggered. I just acknowledged like, hey, I'm triggered. He freaking pissed me off. I let him know. I'm like, listen, I didn't appreciate this. Like I let him know everything about how I felt. And that felt good to me. I did it I didn't curse at him. I didn't disrespect him or anything, but I let him know I'm not okay. And I literally said, I understand that you're okay and you're ready to move on, but I'm not there yet. So I will let you know when I'm ready to reconnect again. And then I put my phone back on Do Not Disturb. Because anything I was going to say after that was going to be really mean, really below the belt. And the thing that I want you to understand is you don't ever feel good about going off on your PMDD partner, saying things that are disrespectful, being really bitter. That bitterness, that unforgiveness, it doesn't feel good in your body. It makes you feel like an evil person. You feel so out of character. Don't let the ego convince you. You need to tell them this and you need to tell them that. You can communicate to them that you're angry, that you're in rage, whether it's PMDD rage or just rage in general, but you don't have to listen to that voice in your mind that's telling you to disrespect your partner, to go off on them, because I had a lot of that this morning. I had a lot of, you need to tell him he doesn't deserve you. All the thoughts that would come up when I would go to like break up with my partner, they literally came up this morning, and I decided to feel it. And so I put on some gangster rap on my morning routine. I did my workout and I literally did like high intensity workout to get the rage out because I could literally feel it in my body. I don't know if you've ever been in situations where you are in PMDD rage so much that you can feel it in your body, like you are fuming, like the cartoons with the smoke coming out of your ears. Like that's how I felt. I felt like I was evil in a sense. And I was so angry, and I allowed myself to feel that. And I went through my morning routine and I did my workout, and I felt like a bad chick. It's the clean podcast. I'm not going to cuss, but you know what I mean. But I felt empowered that I had somewhere to channel that energy. So what I would encourage you to do is find a way to channel that energy. And it's going to have to be something. For me, I couldn't go on a leisurely walk today. Like my morning routine is different every single day, depending on how I feel. But I knew a leisurely walk or, something light like yoga was not going to do it for me today. Like I needed to get that anger, that rage out. And I did. And I was sweating and I was like, like I wasn't saying because I was in the hotel gym, but that's how I felt. I felt like a beast. And it's weird. I felt like I had this like energy in me, but I got it out. And I didn't want to, be that way around my daughter either. So that's the thing. When you're triggered, you could like damage not just your relationship with your partner, but like your children or your dog or like your friends, your family, like anybody that you come in contact with. So you need to channel that energy towards something. And I did. And I took let me look at my thing. I worked out for 90 minutes. And my normal workouts are like an hour. And like an hour, it's like normally like 30 minutes of like cardio or something. And then I'll do weights or yoga or something like that. And it's normally really like chill or whatever. But I worked out for 90 minutes hardcore and I felt good. What I did was I also listened to one of my podcasts. I don't know if you all, know that I do this, but like when I do the cool down for my morning routine, normally I do it in my sauna, but I listen to my own podcast. And I just go through the topics and look at something that I'm going through with my PMDD partner. So if you're ever going through something with your PMDD partner, scroll through the library of my topics and you will find a podcast on it. I have so many right now. Like actually you can scroll through. I have 68. Oh my God, 68 podcasts. You can scroll through and whatever it is that you're going through, just click on that and then listen to it when you're doing, your morning routine, evening routine, afternoon, whatever it is that you need to do to like regulate yourself. Listen to that because it's going to bring you back. And that's what I needed in the moment. I needed something to bring me back. And I needed to forgive my PMDD partner because technically he apologized. And what are my options? I can decide I don't want to forgive him. I'm going to continue to punish him, but I'm in Vegas. He's only here for the next couple of days. I would 100% regret that later on that I allowed this one interaction to affect our whole trip. But it was literally on me. And this is what I tell my private clients so many times. A lot of times it's on you. If you decide that you want to be good, that you want to be in a good mood, your partner is going to fall in line with that. As long as you're being loving again, like when I go downstairs and we have dinner or whatever, well, it's like lunch because we're going to have it at 1:00. But he's going to be loving because I'm loving. And I am not the type of person that needs to talk it out a lot and have those deep conversations, but he is. So maybe it's a conversation that I have, but it's something that I can do once I'm regulated. So if you're the type of person that needs to talk about things a lot, with your partner, wait till they're in a point where they're able to do that in a constructive way. Don't try to force them into being into a situation that you're like, I really want to talk about this. I really want to talk about this. When your partner said that they need space, give them space. Because when you don't, the reaction that you're going to get from them is not going to be something that's going to help your relationship. It's actually going to hurt your relationship. So I know that there's normally an avoidant attachment, which means you need your space. You recover with having space. And then there's an anxious attachment where you need to connect. You need to give your avoidant partner the space and time to regulate themselves before they connect with you. They'll be more likely to connect with you after you've given them that space. If you refuse to give them that space because you're in a position where you're just like, we need to talk, we need to talk, we need to talk, we need to talk, you're pushing them away. You're repelling your partner. You're making them think that the only way that I can get space is to not be with you. And this is where the breakups come in because they literally feel like the only way I'm going to be able to get what it is that I need is to not be with you because you're obviously like I'm asking you for it and you're not respecting my boundaries and you're not giving it to me. So if you're an anxious attachment style, respect the boundaries. Like I said, I will contact you when I'm ready. And that had to be respected in order for me to get myself together. But if you're choosing not to respect that, the response that you're going to get is going to damage your relationship. And I know a lot of times with anxious attachment styles, you don't even care if it's a good interaction. You just feel better by having them talk to you, even if they're yelling, even if they're saying mean things, like at least you feel like they care because they're saying something. But what it is, it's repelling them. It's turning them away from you. So yes, you may feel better that you're getting that attention, but it's actually making them look at you like you're the enemy. They're going to start to think the only way that I can get space and time and all the things that I need is to not be with you. And you don't want to associate them having a healthy, relationship with themselves as not being with you. Because then you're going to be like, okay, so let's do this and let's do that. And they're going to be like, no, I want to be healthy, so I can't be with you. So I want to let you know that you can turn things around, but you have to respect what it is that your partner is saying that they need in those moments and not think that being triggered is a bad thing. So that's the moral of this whole episode is being triggered is not a bad thing. It's what you do with the trigger. Now, the way that I regulate my nervous system when I'm triggered, it can be completely different from you. This is when I do with my private clients. We get to know what regulates you personally, and we work on that. And I want to let you know you can do that too. You can work on having a routine that you do so that every single time that you're triggered, you can have something that you go to do to get that anxious energy out. And this is why I created the monthly PMDD Partner support group, so we can go in there and I can give you the tools, and your partner can come in there. And it can be once you're a member, and we're going to have our first episode or our first session on December the 1st, which is just in 6 days. So go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and go register to join the PMDD Partner Support Group. And it could be, you'll have access to all of our sessions 24/7. So you could press play on one of our sessions and say, hey, I really just need to hear something, regarding this specific topic. And I want to see how Rose really gave the tools to deal with it. It's like having in-house coaching without having private sessions with me. I only have one more monthly private PMDD coaching private session available. So if you have not applied for that, go to the link in my bio on Instagram at In Love with PMDD, or you can go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com. But I want to let you know, being triggered is not bad. It is what you do with that trigger that's going to determine whether you damage your relationship or you grow from it. And you understand that it's going to happen. But just because you're triggered doesn't mean that you're with the wrong PMDD partner. As long as you have the right tools to move forward, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners workbook. What this workbook can do is, if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things, so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship, so you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.